Hey guys, tonight we begin with the rowdy, smoky, and slightly sticky world of the medieval tavern, the unsung heart of every town, the unofficial news centre, and the only place where a knight, a farmer, and a bard could all get equally drunk and equally robbed. It wasn't just a place to drink, it was a place where danger, laughter, and disease mingled freely beneath a thatched roof. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've trudged through a muddy street that smells like a blend of horse smoke and questionable soup. It's raining, of course, or just finished. So everything's slick, including your only pair of shoes. You're tired, you're hungry, and you've nearly been run over by a cart full of turnips twice. You need a drink. So how do you find a tavern in a medieval town? There are no glowing signs, no Yelp reviews, and certainly no GPS. What you do have are your ears. Just follow the noise. Somewhere past the blacksmith's forge and the fishmonger, yelling about his fresh river eels, is a chorus of laughter, shouting, and someone aggressively singing about a goose. And there it is, a crooked wooden building leaning slightly as if even the architecture has had one too many. Hanging above the door is a wooden sign barely legible with a crude painting of, is that a barrel or a bear or maybe both? Either way, this is it. Welcome to the tavern. The front step is slick with ale, and as you push open the heavy iron-hinged door it lets out a creak, so long and dramatic it might qualify as its own form of entertainment. Instantly warm air and the rich perfume of smoke, wet wool, stale beer, and mystery meat hit your face like a drunken handshake. You've made it. Inside, the ceiling is low enough to make tall men duck and drunk men bump their heads. The floor is dirt, not metaphorically, literally. Though someone's laid down straw in an attempt to pretend it's cleaner, it isn't. There are no private booths, no waiters with menus, and no such thing as quiet conversation. This is a medieval tavern, and it only comes in two settings: rowdy and closed due to fire. You spot an open seat at a lopsided bench near the hearth. But it's wet with what you don't ask. Someone nearby is arguing about a stolen chicken. Another is passed out with a ladle still in his hand. A one-eyed dog on a bone under a table like he pays rent there. And this friend is just the entrance. You've only just arrived and already it smells like a night to remember or forget. As the heavy tavern door slams shut behind you, the darkness wraps around your senses like a damp wool blanket. Warm, uncomfortable, and slightly suspicious. Your eyes adjust slowly. Candle light flickers against soot-stained walls, casting dancing shadows that make even the chairs look like they might pick a fight. The hearth blazes in the far corner, doubling as both heating and open flame hazard. Smoke drifts lazily in the air, not quite escaping through the chimney that might be stuffed with a dead crow, but what hits you hardest isn't the noise or the heat, it's the smell. A medieval tavern scent is less aromatic and more emotional trauma. The top notes are ale, warm, sour, and splashed liberally across every surface. Beneath that sweat, years of it, human horse and maybe something mythical. Add a hint of moldy bread, wet straw, and a whisper of boiled onions, and you have a blend no perfumer has dared bottle. The tables are carved with years of initials, crude drawings, and knife scars. They wobble with a kind of stubborn pride. The benches creak under the weight of muddy boots, thick cloaks, and questionable decisions. The floor dirt as promised, but layered with straw meant to soak up spills, spit, and the occasional unconscious customer. You step carefully. One wrong move and your foot sinks into something with a texture best left undescribed. The crowd is a living, breathing organism. Loud laughter erupts in one corner, while two men argue about the price of a pig in another. A woman slams a mug down hard enough to spill half her drink and no one even flinches. A man at the next table stares at you with the dazed look of someone who's either thinking very deeply or forgetting how chairs work. Someone nearby sneezes. The entire left side of the room collectively leans away. And still, despite the overwhelming assault on your modern sensibilities, there's something welcoming here. The tavern is alive. It's rough, raw, and completely unfiltered. The medieval version of a community hub, minus the hygiene, and with 400% more shouting. You find your seat. It's a bit damp. It's probably cursed, but for now it's yours. At first glance the tavern's layout looks like someone arranged the furniture during an earthquake and then just decided to leave it that way. There's no blueprint, no bar area. No cozy booths in the back, just a sprawling uneven spillage of tables, benches, barrels and the occasional wooden crate being passed off as a seat. Everything is too close together or too far apart depending on how drunk you are. The hearth is the only real centerpiece. A big open fire roaring against one wall doing its best to provide warmth, light, and a healthy dose of indoor smoke inhalation. Around it people crowd in for comfort like moths with mugs. Those with the best seats hog the warmth. Those without, well, that's what ale is for. The bar, if you can call it that, is usually just a thick wooden plank resting across two barrels sagging under the weight of jugs, mugs and elbows. Behind it stands the tavern keeper multitasking between pouring drinks, yelling orders and giving that one guy in the corner the death stare of "you still haven't paid for last Tuesday." There are no menus. You ask what's available and brace yourself. The answer is usually ale or shut up and wait. A narrow staircase, possibly original, definitely splintery, leads to the upstairs rooms. If you squint you can see a boot hanging from one of the railing posts. No one's entirely sure if it's decorative or a warning. Some taverns have a back room. It might be for storage. It might be for illegal gambling. Or it might be where the last person who insulted the barmaid was taken, never to be seen again. It's best not to ask. The walls are stained with candle soot. The windows are covered with greasy cloth or animal hide. And every surface has been thoroughly polished by the elbows, boots and spilled drinks of generations past. And maybe a chicken. Somehow, despite the chaos or because of it, it works. Everyone knows where to go, how to sit, when to shout and when to duck. It's not organized, but it is alive. Every medieval tavern has a ruler, and it's not the local lord or the tax collector, it's the tavern keeper. They may not wear a crown, but don't be fooled. This person runs the show. Equal parts chef, server, accountant, babysitter and executioner of barroom justice. The tavern keeper is a one-person institution and they take no nonsense. If it's a man, he's likely built like a barrel with arms, grizzled, grumpy and carved from cured meat and bad decisions. If it's a woman, and often it is, she's sharper than a blacksmith's file, and can silence a room with a single look. Either way, they've seen everything, heard worse and cleaned blood out of straw before breakfast. They greet regulars with a nod, strangers with suspicion and troublemakers with a tankard to the head. Behind the bar, they keep mental tabs on who's paid, who owes and who's had three too many. And they do it all without writing anything down, because medieval literacy might be rare, but tavern memory is terrifying. The tavern keeper sets the tone. If they're in a good mood, the place hums. If they're in a bad mood, you'd better drink fast and keep your jokes to yourself. They're the referee in every argument, the judge in every cheating scandal, and the first to grab a club when a fight breaks out. You do not mess with the tavern keeper. They also know everything. Who's in debt, who's having an affair, who arrived in town under a false name. Need information, bribe the barkeep. Need protection, sit near them. Need a favor, better hope you didn't break a mug last week. Some have a helper, a son, daughter, spouse or orphan. They sort of adopted and now make carry barrels twice their weight. These assistants run drinks, mop floors and try not to spill anything or get stepped on by drunks. So while the tavern may feel like chaos to you, it's actually a very delicate ecosystem. And in the center, commanding it all, like a storm god in an apron, stands the one person keeping the ale flowing and the roof from collapsing into a riot, the tavern keeper. So you finally settle onto a creaky bench, dodging elbows and spilled stew. Your throat's dry, your boots are damp, and it's time for the main event, the drink. But don't expect a wine list or a polished mug. This is a medieval tavern. Your choices are limited, lukewarm, and possibly life-threatening. Let's start with the classic ale, unfiltered, unpasteurized and usually brewed in the back room where the dog sleeps. It's thick, cloudy and often comes with floaties, bits of grain, yeast or possibly a chunk of the previous customer's mustache. It's not cold because there's no ice, and you don't ask how long it's been sitting in the barrel. You just drink and hope. Next up, mead, honey wine. Sounds fancy, right? In reality, it's sweet, strong and occasionally explosive. If the tavern keeper made it themselves, it might be delicious, or it might taste like regret and bee venom. It's usually served to nobles' wedding guests or that one bard who insists on being paid in gold or meat. Then there's cider made from apples that were either freshly picked or dropped on the ground 3 weeks ago. Sharp, tangy, and served in cracked mugs that may double as soup bowls by morning. It's the drink of choice in orchard-rich regions, or for those who want something just alcoholic enough to forget the smell of the man sitting beside them. Wine, technically, yes. But unless you're in southern Europe or the nobilities in town, it's likely watered down, soured, and served with a side of sarcasm. Good wine is reserved for lords, bishops, and the merchant who just sold 12 crates of salt. And water, that's a bold choice because half the time it's teeming with invisible death. Boiling costs fuel and clean wells are rare. That's why even children drink ale. It's not about the buzz, it's about not dying of dysentery before age 8. No one's measuring shots or crafting cocktails here. You drink from mugs made of wood, clay, or tin. Some still have last night's stew in them. You raise your mug, sniff it, and sip. It's warm. It's bitter. And somehow it's perfect. Because in the medieval tavern, if it's wet and won't kill you immediately, it's a fine vintage. So you've survived the drink barely. Now your stomach growls, reminding you that you haven't eaten since sunrise. And your last meal was mostly barley and sadness. Time to eat. But don't get excited. There's no menu, no waiter, and absolutely no one asking if you have any dietary restrictions. You don't order food in a medieval tavern. You ask what's left, then hope it's hot and only vaguely mysterious. Star of the tavern table is usually pottage, a thick stew made from whatever grains, vegetable, and questionable proteins were lying around that day. It's been cooking in the same pot since Monday, and it's now Thursday. New ingredients are added daily. Nothing is removed. It's less of a meal, and more of a culinary time capsule. If meat is involved, congratulations, it's probably rabbit, pigeon, or the unlucky chicken who wandered too close to the fire. If it's game meat, it might be delicious, or it might be aged past reason and seasoned with desperation. Your bowl is made of wood, or your spoon either your own or your fingers. Most people carry their own knife, so eating is a BYO cutlery affair. And don't expect napkins, just the sleeve of your tunic or a shared rag that's seen things it'll never forget. Bread is also on offer. It's tough, dark, and heavy. More a weapon than a food. If it's soft, it was baked today. If it's hard, it was baked last week. Either way, it pairs well with cheese that smells like an old boot and has started developing its own personality. Sometimes they're salted fish, sometimes pickled eggs. Occasionally you'll find a tavern offering a special, which is just a fancier way of saying we had too much of this lying around. Flavor optional, texture unpredictable, still in the flickering firelight with noise all around, and the warmth of food in your hands. It's not bad, it's filling, it's hot, and if you don't think too hard about what's floating in your bum, it might even be comforting. You're not here for fine dining. You're here to eat like a survivor. Once you've found your new seat, ideally one without a knife stuck in it, you start to notice the real entertainment. The people. A medieval tavern is the original social media feed. Loud, chaotic, half-true, and fully committed to oversharing too.